We are going to equip and encourage and produce high achieving champions, right? And I don't mean that just as you're going to be the star on your football team and you're going to make a gazillion dollars. I'm talking about you're going to be a healthy, whole, created in the image of God, know who and whose you are, able to handle any conflicts in life. You walk with confidence and purpose. You know you're the kid of a king, a joint heir to the throne, and it's going to be exemplified in everything that you do.
Hello, everyone. We are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world.
Hey guys, welcome back. Podcast number 19. We're excited to continue this discussion on same page philosophy as husband and wife and as parents.
Yeah, one of the things we said last time was that a really useful exercise for a lot of you parents out there could be to literally make this laundry list or grocery list or whatever you want to call it of topics that you think are going to matter when you're building in a belief system into your kids, know, and when you make this list, like just brainstorm, just kind of like, write down anything and everything you can think of. And then, as you're looking through it, you're praying over it, each of you maybe look at the list and think, do we agree on this or not? Or maybe set aside some time where you start just going through maybe one of these a week or something over some coffee on a certain day of the week. You just made a comment before we turned this on that, this is the kind of stuff that we want our kids to do before they even choose a spouse. Like
Absolutely.
you actually, when you're dating, you're actually interviewing for a spouse forever, right? And so, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother topic. I don't even want to go down that path because
we'll
get to that at some point. But, when you're going through this list, don't be offended if one person says something or the other. Don't get upset about it. Just write the list and then start chatting it one by one to see what you need to kind of get on the same page about.
And remember, the goal is not compromise. The goal is to go work through conflict until you get to agreement that you both value.
And can respect it and apply it.
Yeah, and you'll stick to it.
Yes.
Right? Because then that creates the new normal.
Correct.
Right? So, all right. So I'll start going through some of the grocery list type stuff. You and I were talking here in my office just a couple days ago, I think, and we were talking about doing some of these upcoming podcast sessions, and we started just talking through this list, and you just started rattling stuff off, and I was trying to write stuff down as fast as I could because you were just on a roll. I was like, we should have turned the microphones on back then. But here are a few things on our grocery list. And by the way, some of our grocery list topics we've had to revisit over time because I guess one of our normals that we've chosen is that we're going to choose to adjust through the years of our life as life changes.
Yes.
Just think about it. You and I will be married 20 years in November. And how different was the world 2 decades ago? It is unbelievable how different it was. Like things are speeding up as far as change happens, in particular because of technology and the speed of information. But we've had to make some major adjustments because of that, which we'll talk about. Other things in our grocery list. It's everything from, do we homeschool or send them to public schools or pay for private schools? This is a really important topic. How do we handle some of the wokeness that's happening in the world within our household? Another topic is, what are we teaching about finances in our household?
Another one is our faith.
Yeah. Of course, yes. What do we rest on spiritually?
And what are we teaching our kids? Because our backgrounds, we were both very separate when we first got
I was
married.
a spiritual blank. I knew nothing and just pretty much was like, I don't know. Honestly, my opinion was kind of like, all right, people go to church are kind of weak people that need something like that. Because I didn't know. And
I thought you were just going to whatever church to the girl you were dating. Oh, wait, take that part out?
That's when I told you. That's when I told you I went to a Catholic church twice.
Oh.
And it was always because I was dating somebody.
Yeah.
trying to fit in.
How'd that go?
Not too good. I don't know all the calisthenics and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Better work out more.
Yeah, there's a rhythm you got to get down there.
Keep going with our list. Go.
All right.
Keep
Anyways,
going.
little things like this. I mean, do we agree on? Are we going to do neighborhood living? Or are we going to live with property? And maybe we're going to choose one eventually. But what do we like? Because I remember you and I had to go through that because you grew up in neighborhood living, and I grew up out in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah, I was from the burbs.
Yeah, so it was different.
Yeah, animals or no animals. That was a big one too.
That's a big one. And when?
Exactly, because we had to discuss that early on, and make sure that we were on the same page so that neither one of us was disappointed in that.
Yeah. How about this one? This is a big one. Choosing a church.
Right.
What church are we going to go to? And what does the church need to bring to the table? How much are we going to participate? Mm-hmm. Because, the reality is when you become a high achiever, people want you to perform in different capacities. And, you can get pulled in and then it can affect other areas of your life. So you have to have a little bit of philosophy there.
How about sports for the kids?
Sports for the kids.
Or are we going to even have kids?
Sport, yeah.
I mean, that was a big question we had at the beginning.
Sports for the kids, in particular, there's so much pressure in today's world. We'll go down to each of these eventually, but of trying to be the perfect parent who gets your kids in every sport and gives them every extra opportunity. And you know what? If a family can do that, then they can. But also if you have other things that are happening, it's like we'll talk about, it's really more of a, what do we value most? How do we actually keep the most important things the most important things? And then how do we leverage our time effectively based on our situation and our season,
Well, and then just think about that, talking about sports. Are we having children? How many children? That kind of stuff all is so important to be discussing so that nobody's disappointed. And we'll get down that path at some point. Yeah. But truly understanding what both husband and wife would like as a family unit. Yeah.
How about this one? How do you connect as a family?
Yeah. What do you do to connect? What do
you do? I know a lot of people think everybody needs to have a family dinner. Right? Remember, that never worked for us. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that more, of what we do instead. But how do you connect? How do you communicate? What are you going to do? Family days? What are you sticking to with that? How about are we going to agree to not argue in front of the kids? Right? And that doesn't mean we're always going to do it right. But is that kind of our philosophy? Is that what we're aiming to do? You
mean with those small few disagreements that we have in our life all the time?
Those times when, you kind of have some issues you're working through and stuff.
Yes, that I'm working through.
And I'm there to support you in those,
in the most peaceful, issues. Loving way.
Yeah, exactly.
With just humor involved.
Yeah, comedy.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I'm a great listener and,
So then I have to compromise.
I like to hear your side of view.
Yes.
And, that kind of stuff.
And not interrupt.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah.
How about this? What do we see as far as, are we okay with screaming at our kids?
Right. That really, how are you going to discipline? How are you going to talk to them? And how are you going to have a relationship with them is all super important. Do we think they're just kind of meant to be here but not spoken to? You know what I mean? Are we supposed to speak to them in a certain way? I mean, how do we decide how we're going to have that kind of relationship with them? And that is super important to decide.
Oh, man. That's huge. And you said discipline, but it's like, okay, so is it okay to smack your kid? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying some abuse. I'm just talking about just little, I know, again, times have changed a lot. When I grew up, it was different. It was there was certain things that you didn't do or else you might get knocked off your chair. You know what I mean? It wasn't, yeah, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? And so back then.
And now if something like that happens, somebody's, causing a scene, right?
Yeah.
So it's so different, but you need to discuss this stuff. Are you going to do what kind of discipline?
What kind of discipline? Are you okay with timeouts?
Yeah.
Do you not do timeouts?
Do you take stuff away?
Do you spank? Do you not spank?
Right. Do you take things away? Do you not take things away? What do you do? What is your philosophy together so that one parent isn't doing something the other parent doesn't agree with?
That's going to be a couple good episodes. When we go into
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Other ones. How about things like this? Are we going to vaccinate? Are we going to not vaccinate? And we'll talk about how we made our decisions in that category also. How about how are we going to handle just working with the medical profession in general? What do we do as far as doctor visits versus, sniffles and, you know.
And are we doing chiropractic care? Are we doing more natural? What are we doing? You know what I mean? What works for us? And again, we got educated through the years, and I'm excited to talk about that in the future, about what kind of worked for us.
Yeah.
To help educate those, just so that you can open up your mind.
It's true. Like another one is like, what kind of diet? What kind of quality of food?
Yes.
Are we gonna take the time and energy and money to get the higher quality, organic, natural type stuff? Or are we just going to kind of fly by the seat of the pants and do our thing? How much fast food are we going to do versus not? What's our philosophy around like sugar?
Good question.
Desserts and things like that. Like, how does that look? Because again, this is so easy to come down to, Dad always gives me suckers when we go somewhere. But if you think opposite about sugar, right? We're gonna have conflict, and then it's also gonna create weirdness from our kids, where all of a sudden they want to take more trips with Dad just because they get a sugar buzz and get a sucker, and it's not fair to you.
Right.
So
another one that you need to discuss is screen time and cell phone.
Screen time, yeah, for sure.
What that looks like for your family.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different philosophy on that, and so we definitely love talking about that topic in general, because we have learned some good things through the years, and I say good lightly. Some of them were hard things, to be honest with you, about screen time, cell phones, all those kind of things that in today's world, again, you can feel pressured, but you got to have it lined up with what works for you.
Here's another good one.
Family.
Is it okay? Are you allowed to be able to disrespect each other? It's between siblings.
Oh, how they communicate with each other,
yeah,
how they argue together, how they discuss things.
How nasty can you get with each other? Can you call each other names? Can you do things that could hurt each other's self-images? Can you call each other out when you're living below your level you should be living at? These kind of things. Like, how do you look out for each other? If you're
and define that and what that looks like.
If you're out somewhere and somebody else starts picking on one of you guys, how does that look? What are you supposed to do?
And what does everybody else do at the same time? We'll get into that, because we have definitely worked through that and continue to work through that topic for our family, especially with all the dynamics that we have going on. So I love that topic.
Who are your best friends?
How do you define that?
How do you define it?
Yeah.
Right?
How do you define that? I like that.
Here's another one. What they should and shouldn't purchase. Our kids now are getting to the point where they're making money every year. They're making good money doing their entrepreneurial endeavors.
They should purchase me something.
I know. I mean, like,
I'm their mom.
Chrissy made $4,000 last year at 12 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm proud of her for it. Good girl.
Yeah. Yep. And
but you're right. We definitely had to start discussing what that looks like for us. What are they allowed to spend their money on, and what do we not want them to spend their money on? And not to be swayed just because, they earned it or they want it. I mean, like, one of our kids would be like, can I buy my own phone? I can pay for it every single month. I want to buy this phone and do this with it, and I'm in charge of it.
Boy, wouldn't they ever want to do that.
And that's just, we had to have some good discussions about that one.
How about what is appropriate clothing?
That's a good one.
Who do you get your standard from in
and
that
at
category?
What age?
At what age?
Because I'll tell you, we have 3 teenage girls now, and my gosh, other teenage girls wear things that I'm embarrassed to see, let alone to think that they would ever allow my child to wear that. Yeah. And to take that into consideration, husband and wife, what that looks like. Because again, I'm not trying to have my kids fit in with whatever new age stuff is going on around here.
Yeah. Toys, what kind of toys, how many toys do you get to have? When do you get toys? You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. We mentioned spiritual beliefs. We mentioned a little bit about political beliefs, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like, in our house, we don't celebrate anything that goes against God's will.
Right.
Right. Anything that's a perversion of God's word. Like, we don't do pride shirts and, anything that's in opposition to our spiritual beliefs at all.
They don't line up with the word, so they don't line up with our philosophy.
Yeah.
Another thing that we're really careful about is what movies our young kids especially. I mean, all of our kids, to be honest with you, but we have to teach them young. We've done it wrong sometimes, and my gosh, we've had to deal with some of the repercussions of that, and we'll get into that. But we are really very strict on what we feel like our kids are allowed to watch.
Yep. How do we handle disagreements between you and I when it comes to parenting? Because you know what? As much as we try to get on the same page, every now and then, I'll say something and you're like, I don't really agree with that, because maybe we haven't even discussed something like that yet, or vice versa. So how do we handle that in front of the kids instead of just being like, oh no, we're not doing that, and start arguing in front of them? How about this one? How late do we let our kids stay up? What kind of schedule for sleep?
Well,
do we
is there a
keep them on?
schedule? Number one,
Yeah.
that's the first thing.
Even at older ages. From
Right,
the time
but
they're
everyone
babies
has
on
that
up.
different idea, and we've kind of gone down this road a lot too. But our schedule's healthy or not, even into the older ages.
Yeah.
We'll get into
Yeah.
the importance of what we think of
I
that.
wrote down in here, what are some for sure not do's when it comes to things we eat, like red popsicles and dyes and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? But again, that's another one of those topics where if we're not on the same page, you've studied all this stuff about red dyes and how it's not good for you. And here, every time we go somewhere, I'm always like, hey, let's get a cherry sucker.
Yeah, that would not line up well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, it'd be a thing we have to talk about. How about the kind of music that we let them listen to or that they're around? Are we allowing, just because a beat of sound is really good, but the words are way off and it's stuff they'll repeat over and over again? Are we going to allow that?
Well, just because they heard it, somewhere out and about. Oh, does that mean that, I don't get to listen to that because you don't want me to be able to relate to my friends? And how we address that topic and who we're trying to relate to.
Yeah, for sure. Other ones, like, how do we celebrate holidays?
Gotta
Right?
get on the same page with that, because as your family dynamics change, what's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, you could have certain traditions that you've always done, and I maybe didn't have any. And so then, okay, are you going to be angry if we don't do it on a certain day? And same thing with birthdays, right? How do you celebrate birthdays? I mean, I know some families that they are super intense about it. Has to be the day of. They literally stop everything in the world in order to celebrate that birthday on the specific day. They don't care if the kids won and will never remember it anyways. It has to happen on the day. And it probably comes from something that got built into them. It's fine. It's just as long as the two parents are in agreement.
That's right. As long as you're in agreement with it.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to give you examples of,
Yeah.
for you to discuss husband and wife, mom and dad, so that you can be on the same page. And guess what? If they don't line up with anything of anybody else's family, that's okay. As long as you guys are on the same page, because there are many things that we have come to agreement with that does not line up with other people's family dynamics.
It's funny. Some of these I wrote down are kind of making me giggle, but we've talked about all these. Like, one, who does the dishes?
You.
You're
Get in alignment.
You're I'll push the button. All right. How about this one? Do dogs get to stay in the kitchen when you're making food?
Apparently, yes.
Okay. But then this is a seasonal thing again, right? Because remember when we had our first three? I was way against it.
Yeah. I didn't mind. That was fine with me.
Yeah. Do we allow dogs to get fed from the table?
Oh.
But I'm just saying.
But for us, it doesn't work. It was one of our
No,
decisions.
for us, it's a hard no.
Yeah.
However, some people are
okay with that.
They're okay with it, so they let their kids do it. So because we're not, though, we don't let anybody do it in our household.
Right.
How much vacationing do you take per year versus work you do?
Right. Good. Good discussion there.
Yep. I already mentioned what to volunteer for, maybe in your community, et cetera, versus not.
Yeah.
Here's one. How do you bring concerns to mom and dad safely? What does that look like?
Yeah.
We already said how much sports we could do. How do we set goals? Is it just you and I first? Then is it as a family? What's examples of this? How about this? How much eating out are we going to do? How much of a budget are we going to allow for this? When are we going to spend money on things that need to get done, like braces and stuff like that? What kind of dentists do we get? Do we get natural ones or do we just get normal ones? The decision we had to make was, what kind of stuff are we going to put in our grass? What's the balance between having potentially harmful chemicals where our kids are walking barefoot versus having a lawn that looks perfectly green?
Right.
And
but
that
we
kind of
discussed
stuff.
what was best for us.
Yeah. Things like, how do we talk through sex with our kids and at what ages?
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll get down the road on that one.
Who do we
That's
let
good.
stay overnight at our house?
Right.
And why?
And I think that, again, we'll hit on that one, but that is a really important one.
Who do we trust to babysit? Who educates our children? Do we allow to have voices in their life like that? What about buying vehicles? What's that going to look like? Where are we going to live and why? How do we push each kid differently? There's all these different topics and it's fun, and so I think that's probably enough right now. And then we can start going through some of these, but you can see, guys, if you're listening to this, parenting's no joke.
Well, yes, you're right. It all depends. But if you want to do it at a high level so that you can succeed and allow your kids to succeed, you have to take it as serious as you would any other major choices in your life.
Well, that's part of our philosophy, right?
That's right. We would
Our
never want
philosophy
to
is
just give that
the
freedom
decision
away.
is we are going to equip and encourage and produce high achieving champions, right? And I don't mean that just as you're going to be the star in your football team and you're going to make $1 gazillion. I'm talking about you're going to be a healthy, whole, created in the image of God, know who and whose you are, able to handle any conflicts in life. You walk with confidence and purpose. You know you're the kid of a king, a joint heir to the throne, and it's going to be exemplified in everything that you do.
Well, and what's so important about it, again, is that, so you can see some people's seeds of how they've taken parenting either seriously or not seriously. And then you later can see how the children are raised and become adults and some of the havoc that is going on in this world, because some parents chose not to take it as serious as they did other things in their lives.
That's right.
And I think it's so important for us to all take responsibility to understand that as parents, we have a really amazing choice right now to help impact the future with our children.
Such a great topic.
Yeah.
Can't wait to, jump into the individual items here in the near future. Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. And we have great news. You get more of us. You can expect new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. So be sure to consistently tune in with us and enjoy our show. See you next time.